Really quick before this video starts, please know that there is a discount code towards the end of this video you are not going to want to miss. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Very nice.
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Easy. Pleasure.
All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of Smash Times Lead Therapy. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I got what I feel is one of the leading AR manufacturers that makes really cool AR parts on today. When I first saw this foregrip, I had to buy it. And then I went on the website and it was just blown away by all the parts and accessories that they offer. And I had to get them on the show, man. You know, I had to learn more and actually ended up building this rifle behind me. I'll put a link to that video and to their information down below. And let's bring them on. So without further ado, we have Paul from Fortis Manufacturing.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Appreciate it, man. Nice to meet you and the audience.
I got to tell you, and real quick, everyone, this is a pre-recorded live just so we could touch guns and have more fun. So we pre-recorded this. So you guys are watching this probably 2 days on like a 2-day delay. But Paul, thank you so much for coming on. Like I was telling them, as soon as I saw that first foregrip and saw how well it was made, because there's a lot of crappy AR parts on the market. It's flooded with junk. And I was just blown away. I was like, man, I got to learn more about this company. And then the shop I go to, ESAT Arms up in the Woodland, Texas, is a Fortis distributor. And they had a couple more of your parts in stock. And then we ended up they actually built this rifle for me because I could do it myself, but I'd rather have a professional do it. Otherwise, it's going to look like I did it myself.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It turned out amazing, by the way. I watched the video that you had shot with the rifle, and obviously I've known about your channel for some time, and you have great content on there. And so when I saw that video and how it turned out, I thought you did a great job of kind of mixing some color into the mix, and sitting on the wall there looks amazing, man. Congrats.
Yeah. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, on a regular live, as soon as you touch it, you're just, it's over. It's game over. It's game over.
Okay.
So everything from this LA stock with this carbon fiber, this is what really sold me. Like, man, I got to get one of these. And then I saw the rail, I had to get one of those. And then the grip, I'm like, man, everything about this gun is phenomenal. And excuse my language, I ran the dog shit out of this gun. I put over 1,000 rounds in 2 days through this, and it's fantastic. I mean, it looks and feels and functions perfection. This really is a fantastic gun. I love this. What do they call this? A blast, kind of like a blast diverter in the front?
Yeah, it's called our control shield. It mitigates the gas up front, and so yeah, the control shield is a quick detach system. We absolutely love it, and I don't know if it's okay to share a quick story about that.
Oh, absolutely.
But one of the things that I really like about that control shield is we were shooting with the missus and the wives and a group of us at a national forest area. So it was outdoors. We're just having a good time, and we were shooting up front. And the wives and they were sitting a little bit farther behind. And at one point, they wanted to just remove their ear protection and communicate amongst themselves or what have you. And my wife calls up and goes, "Can you just make it quieter?" And I said, "We didn't bring any suppressors that day." And so I said, "Well, why don't we throw a control shield on?" And amazingly enough, they had conversations because that concussion, that force that is directed towards the front, is really the sound that they're hearing and feeling. And so they were able to be behind us a little ways away and hold conversations. So it was really designed for those types of things, but also for close quarters, for home defense. If you have a muzzle brake on it and you're clearing your small close areas like hallways or what have you, then obviously throwing something like that on there would help you and save some hearing. So that's kind of what it's designed for, and really happy with it. It's one of our better sellers for sure.
Does she take full credit for that? She goes, "You're lucky."
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
what's funny is, so
Yeah.
I noticed that I tested it in the indoor range. It's not
Yeah.
a suppressor in any way, but it
No,
does push a lot of that noise and garbage forward.
that's right.
So shooting in the middle of the indoor range, I did notice quite a bit of a difference. I mean, you could definitely tell when it's on and
Yeah.
off for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So were you raised? Well, you said you're from Los Angeles originally.
No, I'm pretty much Pacific Northwest. So
Okay.
uh, I was born in Korea, and our family immigrated when I was 4 years old. So for all intents and purposes, I was raised USA all the way, and so I'm red, white, blue through and through. And so, um, yeah, and our family immigrated to the Pacific Northwest. We are about um, just a little in between Tacoma and Seattle. So our
Oh, okay.
shop is in a place called Kent, Washington, and it's just an industrial area over here. But yeah, kind of in the middle of in between Seattle and Tacoma. But this is kind of where our family immigrated to originally.
Have you seen Seattle change a lot in the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, it's really sad. Political things aside, I mean, we just used to, as a family, enjoy, going there on a weekend, right? And just, you know, parking downtown and shopping and eating and having a good time. And that stopped for us, at least my immediate friends, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, as just kind of it's ruined that feeling of it, and the
Right.
safety concerns and just how they let the city kind of go in some parts, downhill quite a bit. And so a lot of the shopping areas are now slowly starting to come back, but for a while, I mean, a lot of big name stores that you would want to shop at on a Saturday, or my wife would want to shop at on a Saturday, they all had closed down and they all left. And so it's it's definitely not the Seattle that we were used to, in years
Yeah.
past for sure. Yeah.
Similar experience. I just went back for my real job is international logistics, and I went to LA for a conference last week for about 4 or 5 days, and I was staying with my sister in a really nice part. Used to be a really nice part of Lomita, Torrance area, and man, it's gone downhill quite a bit. And just taking Ubers from her area, going through Long Beach to the conference. I mean, there's tent cities everywhere. There's
Right.
trash everywhere, and I can't imagine the graffiti. The
Yeah.
cities leave
It's
up the graffiti now because they call it art, and I'm like, "No, it
right.
looks like crap." That's one good thing about Houston, Texas. There's very little graffiti because they take it down immediately.
Right. Well, and for us, Portland is only three-hour drive down south, and so a lot of us would make a weekend trip to, just get a different vibe in, or
Right.
some people would want to get the tax, the sales tax benefits or what have you, and so we would make that trip, and that's clearly stopped too, and so I think it's really a shame. And the other day we were driving on I-5 south towards Olympia, which is our state capital here, and there was kind of a tent city on I-5, and my wife, she's not really, she didn't know it was like that, and so she'll just ask like an honest question. Why do they allow that, allow that, and so it's like, where do you want to begin? But it is a shame because it's
Yeah.
turned a big part of our beautiful kind of scenery into something that should be rectified, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching this whole thing on it, completely off topic from guns, by the way. Everyone in the
Sure.
chat, sorry about that. but you got to tell some stories. So I was talking to a homeless guy, and
Mhm.
I asked him, I go, so what's your deal? I mean, why are you homeless? And he goes, man, it's easier to be homeless than it is to not be homeless, because they bring, they don't care if their tents get taken away or their sleeping bags, because there's groups that come and give them fresh tents and fresh sleeping bags every week. They just go to a certain
Right.
part of the park and they get food, they get medicine, they get prepaid phones. They get a lot of, it's real easy to be homeless in the United States. And some of these guys like, look, man, I sleep under a bridge. I don't have to work. I got no care in the world,
Sure,
you know?
sure. No, yeah, no, I feel you. And I don't obviously have a big one or answer, and I'm sure there's, um, differing opinions on how to solve that. But I do think that something needs to be done, because clearly what's happening now isn't working.
It's
You
not
know,
working. It's not working.
it's not
So,
it's not working.
all right, everyone in the chat's probably going nuts. Let's talk about how you got into guns itself. So you came over here when you were 4. Did you grow up with guns in the house or?
No, firearms started a little bit later, for me, as an enthusiast. And so the thought of being in the firearms business wasn't immediate. Matter of fact, this was a career after it was after another career that I already had. So it was kind of a late onset, but I've always had the desire to um, run some sort of business, and that's kind of inbred in our family. A lot of our family has people in various businesses, and so that was just kind of our DNA or bloodline, from small business to medium sized to larger businesses. But that was always of interest, and so the
Mhm.
firearms thing just kind of came in because there was a need, or you kind of saw the industry and thought, well, what if we made this, or what if we made that can kind of fill in some of the voids that we saw at that time. And so no, that kind of happened organically.
Okay, so you weren't like a gun guy before you got into it, or?
Gun guy to a point. I mean, going to the range and shooting, and obviously having some firearms and collecting and things of that nature. But I mean, I have friends now, obviously, that those guys are gun guys, right? I mean, they just have. I mean, it's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get like their saves will be like reposted by Galatech and things like that. I mean, they just have an amazing things. And so in comparison to them, probably not. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Um, there was a fascination with it, obviously, and having it for home defense, I always believed in, and the freedom to do so, I always believed in. So those types of things kind of all were in line from day one.
Yeah. And it's funny, when I first moved to Texas about 10 years ago, I told this guy, I was like, yeah, I got like, 8 guns. He goes, oh, that's cute. He goes, when are you going to start really
Yeah,
collecting? I'm like,
yeah,
dang, like
yeah,
these
yeah,
guys out
right.
here, when you hit like the 40, 50 mark, then you're considered, not a rookie, but it's
Right.
bananas. And it's funny you mentioned, so, I grew up in LA, and you always hear this stuff about rooftop Koreans. Well,
Mhm.
there was across the street from my house, there was like an indoor swap meet.
Okay.
And during the riots, I remember I was a kid and they were on top of the roof, and everyone kept trying to break in the back doors because
Yeah.
it faced our house. And
Okay.
I mean, it was pretty scary times. I mean, it was
Yeah.
pretty nuts. And those guys, my mom, she's like, don't go by the window. I'm like, man, I think they kept our little neighborhood pretty safe, because
Yeah, and
it was spooky. It was a really freaky couple days.
right. So I think for the most part, just generally speaking, I think, um, for the Korean demographic, there's probably split 50-50. Some people, just because Korea in itself, the country, doesn't have firearms, or if you do, you have to leave it with your police department, then you check it out, go to the range, shoot, and drop it back off type thing. And it's very limited, and your access to it isn't like America. It's not founded upon one of the obviously Bill of Rights, and so people that are more culturally maybe conservative, in the sense of being more used to how it is in Korea, they might not quite understand it, but they're not like among my friends, they might just not have a firearm or what have you, but they're not like opposed to it, meaning, it just might not be for them. The polarization um, among my friends are typically from my American friends, and that are just like really one side or another. Middle of the road seems to be less and less anyway. And so for me, growing up looking at the LA riots and things of that nature, I've always thought that it was smart to have some sort of
Right.
protection, And then I don't know if this happened in Texas too, but here during the BLM movement, there was a lot of riots, and there were that pop up city in Seattle, Chaz or what have you, and so these
Oh
types of
yeah.
things started happening, and so these middle of the road friends were concerned for some safety, and so they were reaching out like, hey, how do I purchase a firearm? How do I get into a firearm? And so I thought, if anything, it was an educational a moment of education to be able to just say, hey, yeah, this is why you want the ability and the freedom to own a firearm, and so it was a good time for me to be able to educate a lot of my friends for sure.
That's outstanding because it's
Yeah,
everyone I know that's into guns. They don't ever want to shoot anybody. I mean, it's never, oh, I can't wait till
unfortunately.
I get to shoot someone in self defense. Like that's the
Yeah,
last
unfortunately.
thing you ever want to have to do. And the people that are really into guns are actually the most responsible people I know in my whole life. They're very
100%.
super responsible. I
Yeah,
mean, you got a couple
100%.
wackadoos everywhere, but for the most part, they're super, super responsible.
Absolutely.
But I
Absolutely
don't
agree.
know, man. It's crazy. Like you're talking about the middle of the road. It's so funny. I didn't know how one sided I was until I left California, and then when I moved to Texas, I really went war. I'm still kind of a tree hugger and all that stuff. Really into the environment, but I mean, I'm very pro T-way, First Amendment all the way, and those are values that used to be liberal values, as far as like the First Amendment, free speech, free love, and
Yeah.
that's not even there. But anyway, so Fortis Manufacturing, how did this company get born? Were you just like, hey, one day let's just start a company?
Yeah, so in 2011 is when we had formed the company, and I remember um, the first item I think we put under the manufacturing umbrella were some patches. Like, hey, let's just get a website and start making stuff and some patches. And then the real first aluminum part that we had made, which we still sell, by the way, is called our wrap. And the wrap is basically a small QD socket that mounts directly to a Picatinny rail. So at that time, if you can remember, a lot of these hand guards weren't coming with QD sockets on them, or people wanted the option of being able to put their slings on various points of the rifle. So we came up with this, little access point of a sling swivel can insert into the QD mount, and so that was a very popular item. It wasn't until December of 2013, so a couple of years later, that we introduced our very first rail system, a handguard system called the Rev Rail. And the first one was it was kind of a quad rail, not quite a quad rail, but it looked more like a quad rail than our
Mhm.
Rev 2 that we have now. And at that time, we were the second company, I want to say, behind Navesti that implemented the key mod system onto the
Right.
rail system. And so when we had that key mod introduced, and I'm friends with Eric Kinsel, so I can't remember how that went about, but that conversation happened. We got in touch, um, and then we decided to add it on. And initially, there was a lot of opposition because it looks like you're putting together storage, shelving or something, right? The key mod
Yeah.
system, but it absolutely flew off. And when we introduced a Rev Rail, I think Rainier Arms at the time was our distributor, and 100 rails sold out in less than a minute. And
Oh my
so,
god.
yeah, so we knew we had something. And hindsight's 2020. It would have been nice to probably spool up faster if you had a crystal ball, but it takes a
Right.
while. And so the next 100, we'd put it on and sell out. Then the next 100, but it just took time and time. And then the longer length, the 14 inches were released, and away we went. But so I remember at SHOT Show in January of 2014, we had it at a couple of different booths, just on reels and stuff. And by then the trajectory was just kind of upwards. And so that was kind of the beginning of the company, I would say, that legitimized us, and people were inquiring about, what type of handguard that is. And now I wouldn't even consider that really lightweight. There's some really lightweight handguards out there, but at the time when we had come with it, I mean, handguards were pretty bulky and heavy at that time. And so if we can lighten it up, and the 12-inch at that, the release date was probably nine ounces or something of that nature, it was kind of a game changer for sure at that point in time.
Yeah, I mean, 2012, 2011, I mean, rails are super heavy. I remember I bought a YHM. There was some manufacturer.
Yeah, sure.
Was that them, YHM?
Yeah, YHM was one of the players.
So heavy. That thing weighed 1,000 pounds, man, but it looked so cool on this Bushmaster I put it on. I was like, this is the coolest rifle ever. Heavy as shit, though. It's terrible.
Right. And there was a lot of those types of rails out there, because that's what, relief cuts or lightening it out or things of that nature just wasn't really popular at that time. And everybody had a quad system. And so when we shaved down the 3 and 9 o'clock sights and put Keymont there, well, that in itself just lightens it up quite a bit, and so there was learning curves obviously with that, and implementation of how it fixes to the barrel nut and things, and learning over time to make it tighter and tolerances tighter. But yeah, that was kind of the start for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. So I think PSA has a quad rail they just came out with.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm a fan of quad rails. I like things like the front sight base, the cutouts. We had them a long time ago, and then we recently, on that rail that you have, that Camber series rail, we have 2 FSB options. I like that look. I kind of think that having a front sight base on a rifle kind of looks pretty cool. But everybody has that different flavor. And I think one thing that I made the mistake of early in our business was probably doing things that I just thought looked good, and so I'd surprise myself, and even if it's like this style or this color, that people would want that, and so now I'm open to kind of the just what the market is dictating. And so that's why I love free market, is people will tell you what they like, what they're willing to pay for it, and so I think that's kind of the best indicator of the direction of the business. You still have to be innovative, obviously, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't just put in your own opinion of what you think will work or what you don't think will work.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of innovation, and you went to SHOT Show. I mean, I tried to connect with you at SHOT Show this year, but it was such a madhouse. It was so much fun. This was my second one, but going around, I mean, I was even talking to some other people. If you're not innovating and your stuff looks plain Jane, I think you're gonna die in this AR market. I mean, there's so much just regular, boring AR stuff out there. There's a lot of boring rails, boring grips, and it's like, come on, you gotta change it up, And I think when I look at your stuff and I see it was released years ago, it was way ahead of its time, because you can take your foregrip now and put it next to any grip on the market, and it looks better, if not, on the exact same level. And it was, 2-3-year-old design.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. I think I shared this with you, but for your listeners, why that foregrip, that vertical grip, means so much to me. Do you mind if I share that story?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that innovation came 100% from my best friend from high school. He graduated at the university here, University of Washington, with an industrial design degree. So he's just a designer by trade. And one day he had drawn something literally on a napkin or a piece of paper saying, "Hey, I think we should make this vertical grip." And when I saw it, this is one of those learning things. I said, "There's no way, no one's going to buy this, man." I
love it. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I love it. Of course, I love it too. And so, but at that time, it was just so progressively out there in terms of a design, you know. And so when he had this, and I don't know if you can see this, but when he had this, he said, "Hey, Paul, one thing that you can do is you're going to be able to do a thumb, you know, over pinky and over, or you can do it like a can. You're going to be able to put your middle finger in it. It's just going to fit really ergonomically in your hand." And I said, okay, let's print it on a 3D and see how it feels, you know. And so we had done that, and surprisingly, it felt great. And so we wanted to make it. And this was so progressive in terms of the design. This by far has been the biggest legal fees have been on protecting the IP on this particular design. I mean, this is the most counterfeited item that we have. It made the most video games and those types of things. It's just kind of a part that people will kind of see and identify with. It's just kind of different, but it's very functional. We always say that you want to make form and function blend, but I always think that function should be over form. And in the beginning, when I saw this, I thought it was just kind of a design thing, you know, like, oh, it's a designer, whatever it might be, but functionally, I thought it was lacking. But once you feel it in your hands and you shoot with it, you realize that it fits
so good. Now that's a no-brainer. Anybody that's on the fence, buy one, and you'll see what he's talking about, because it fits so great. Everyone in the chat, please like, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed to my channel. Also, I have the Fortis in the description of this video. I have their YouTube and their Instagram. Please like, subscribe, and support their page. And I'm sure they'd greatly appreciate it. I'd greatly appreciate it.
We would. Thank you.
So there's a lot of copycats out there for that grip. And I've actually, since you mentioned that story, I've been looking around, and there's some very similar grips out there.
Yeah, at one point, what I didn't like, well, going back, you were talking about how people that are gun owners are just great people. I couldn't concur with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. I think gun owners, for a broad stroke, for the most of my friends and just they're just great, salted the earth, good people. I have no problems with people typically that are 2A enthusiasts. When we started, though, it was kind of, and I'm not even saying that this needs to hold true. I'm just kind of giving you a background, is, hey, we want made in the USA. I think American made is really good. It stands for something. We think this is amazing. It supports kind of our backing. 2A, this is kind of our thing. All right, no problem. Whether you agree with that or not, that's how it was, is what I was saying. And there's a lot of companies that farm out to other countries and they make a solid product, and so that's not what I'm saying. But what I couldn't have imagined is people blatantly copying our products, and it looks identical. There's no difference, but they would make it overseas in China and bring it over. They would just omit our logo, and people knowingly would buy that. And it was just, I couldn't believe that was what our industry was turning into. And so that's changed a little bit. And I'd like to blame it on
that has to
just
hurt a little bit.
Oh, it stung, because we were trying to always do things the right way, and so I always thought that that was a little bit of a sore spot for sure. The people that really found out and understood that this was our product and we have patents on it and things, then they're like, oh, okay, I didn't know. But more than them purchasing counterfeit items that hurt, I think what hurt is they just assumed it was ours because they'd buy it on Amazon or eBay or whatever it was at the time. And then they would just write things like, oh, this aluminum is cheap. Oh, well, it's not our aluminum. It's not aluminum that we source from America, and it wasn't manufactured on our CNC machine. So those were some struggles in the beginning years for sure.
Oh man. Have you had anything else that was copied?
We had that LA stock we had copied as well. And I was surprised by that, because that stock has so many moving components and parts to it that it's very difficult to produce. So I thought, kind of joking around with the staff here, like, if I was going to copy something, I certainly wouldn't copy something that takes that many moving parts, But yeah. Yeah, I mean that's just kind of happens, unfortunately, you know.
I love that LA stock because you guys, can you see it here? Oh, it's on this side.
Yeah.
So this stock right here, what's so great about it is how easy it is to adjust. Just clicks down, adjust it however you want, and when it clicks in, it is tight. And there's no wiggle, there's no noise. Man, I dig it. It's pretty much flawless in my book, in my own opinion. So I have
Appreciate
to
that.
ask you,
Thanks.
so why did you go AR-15s? Why not like 1911s, or why not other? I know you do Glock barrels,
Yeah, we just do the Glock barrels for the Glock 19.
but why not something else like
Yeah, and
AK
I think
parts or
yeah, and yeah, it's funny that you mentioned AK because that was always kind of on the docket. And I think what we struggle with as a smaller company is that um, to expand and to create new lines, it you have to shut down machines to be able to test them and evaluate them and do those types of things. And so I think we've always struggled with balancing that and keeping up with demand. Like right now, we're back ordered on. I'm looking at the sheet now, and it kind of barks at me because I know we're behind on certain things. But now to stop production and kind of make a new product, it's always been a challenge for us. And I'd like to think that if we were huge and we just had disposable machines sitting there and just people being able to just work on certain new projects, that we probably wouldn't have this hiccup, but we're just not at that size yet. And um so with that being said, why did we do the AR-15 is because it was just a platform that I was fascinated and enamored by, and I knew it was a popular platform, and
super
it
popular?
was
America's rifle.
right. And so it was kind of the Legos for adults. And so, and that's how I explain it because I have a lot of friends and that aren't firearms people. So when they ask me these types of questions, that's how I'm explaining it to them. It's like, hey, you're gonna, do you want to make products for, uh, you know, a Ford, or do you want to make it for a Lamborghini? It sounds great, but don't you want something that there's 300,000 people that's going to buy it in this quarter, versus 1,400 or whatever the number is. And so
Right.
that's kind of the direction. And because we knew that there was so many AR-15s out there, if you made a product, people could easily swap it out. And that's why that rev rail was amazing, because at that time, what was really popular was a Delta ring assembly and just a plastic foregrip from like your Colt or what have you. So you just snip off the Delta ring assembly, you leave the barrel nut on the upper receiver, you take apart your plastic handguards, and then ours slips right on, and four Allen wrench screws, and you're done. And so anybody could feel like a gunsmith at home. And so that was a easy proposition in the beginning for sure. But yeah, probably more popularity than anything.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to find that one AK part because AKs are super hot. I think over the last 2 years, they've been getting more and more. I know a lot of people that were kind of the anti-AK group that are
No, no,
more accepting, and they actually own some now. And I think it's becoming almost mainstream, like way more
100%.
than it used to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think early on, the AK price point was a little bit lower, and so it was, I think, maybe in some people's opinions, a harder sale to sell a part that goes on there that might be a little bit more expensive, for your
Mhm.
firearms. And so maybe that was kind of the push too. But lately, I agree with you, man. I think that market is sexy for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love them. Like honestly, there's a YouTuber named Clayco 47, and I was out shoot. We shoot at the same range, and I ran across him one day, and uh, I got to shoot some of his full auto AKs, and I'm like, man, I just fell in love, and I had to get. I have three now. Like I love that
That's awesome.
platform. They're fantastic,
That's
and
awesome, man. Yeah.
and they're absolutely reliable. For the most part, they're absolutely reliable. But so let's talk about your obsession with cars, because if you look at a lot of the
Yep.
stuff that's named, you have the torque, you have the camber, you have the shift. And it was funny when I talked to you the first time, I knew you were a car guy because I'm looking at your catalog and I'm like, this is all car parts.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rev.
So yeah, that's right. So the rep, I've been enamored with automobiles ever since, like most kids, right? We grow up, we're playing with a handful of things, and automobiles tends to be one of them, right? Playing with your cars. And so I'm no different in that sense. I just love cars. And so, but I like a specific brand, not a brand, but a type of car in my head of what looks good and what I like. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with price or what have you, or brand specific, but I just like certain lines. And so when we started making the names, it just kind of naturally happened. Like the first product, the wrap that I was telling you, it wasn't a car name, but by the time we got to a Rev, I thought, okay, let's use that. And then we had an optic mount. We still have it. It was called F1 optic mount. And then the shift vertical grip that we're talking about, that forearm, and it just kind of progressed. So the latest rail, the one that you have on your wall there, is the Camber series. And so that was another kind of image to your automobile or F1 where it cambers in. And so I just really like automobiles. And so if there is a few passions in my life, that would be one of the top ones. I if you had me pick, what do you want to do on a weekend? Go on a drive or go camping or go shooting? It's good first world problems to have. I'm not sure what I'd do. Yeah,
Do
but
all
those are kind
three.
of my three. Yeah, those are my top, man. Yeah, and some people love fishing. I know I have a lot of, especially in the Pacific Northwest, but I've never been really into that. Yeah, it's embarrassing to say. I know some of your commenters and probably unsubscribe me right now for saying that.
No,
But
it's
yeah,
funny.
so
I learned how to
yeah,
fish just so I could show my kids how to fish. Just
yeah,
because
that's
I thought
awesome, man.
that's what a father should show, like, their kids. Take them fishing. So I got into fishing just so I could take them fishing. Really,
Yeah, that's
I
good
kind
stuff,
of
man.
enjoy it.
Yeah, that's good. But to your point, it's just something that I really dig. I really like. I think just the beauty that comes from putting, you know, uh, cars together, how many moving components they have, and from designer to functional engineers to get it right. And then they go through all of that, and then it hits the road, and we're just here going, I don't really like how that looks. It must be a heartbreak, right? I mean, because they went through so much effort to
Right.
bring it to market, right? And so we feel that a little bit. We'll come up with a part, and but we get feedback pretty fast. And the research and development for a firearm part is nowhere near an automobile, obviously. But even us, we've scrapped stuff, and it stings because you were in it money, time, energy, and money. And so it's kind of a thing. But that process, I wanted to show you something. I mean, this is a really simple, silly thing that we have, but this is a torque grip. The torque grip comes in both the one that you have, the carbon fiber, and this is just standard, meaning it's all aluminum. And this torque grip comes in various colors and angles. I think I want to say this is a 25-degree angle. So probably the most common one. But we'll come up with a design like this. This is a pretty thick, I know it's hard to see, but pretty thick carbon fiber. We use real carbon fiber. The weaves aren't done yet. We just use scrap to kind of get to this place. But this process is what I really enjoy, is like, well, I really like this grip. We have some that sells the carbon fiber on the back and the front like you have. I don't
Yeah.
have one readily available, but the one on your rifle. But I've always wanted like either G10 or some sort of insert. So now we're working on coming up with kind of inserts to, go in there, right?
Oh,
To make
what?
carbon fiber. Yeah. So it's kind of
Yes.
different than what you have, right? So
Yeah.
to
Very cool.
each their own. But this process for us, it's a very easy proposition. We're going into CAD, we're kind of sending it out and making sure that it cuts right, it feels good, it looks good. And if we scrap this product or we brought it to market and it didn't do well, it's not, it's not the end of the world for us. But for automobiles, the reason why I have so much respect for it is because they almost have to hit a home run. You have to, otherwise, if you have a few bad years, it's gonna really be detrimental to your company. And so I applaud, the vehicle of
Yeah.
automobiles. It's just amazing what they do.
I remember
Yeah.
I watched this whole YouTube video. It's almost an hour and a half of a designer building a car out of clay. You know how they do the rough draft out of clay
Yeah, oh,
first?
oh yeah, I
I
watched
couldn't
those.
stop
Yeah,
watching it. It was flawless. It
it's
was so
amazing.
cool. And then, like, you know, I'm sure you watched Chip Foose when he had his show going through all that
Of
stuff.
course.
I love it. I can't get enough of it. There's so many good YouTube channels that do car stuff. Like Rich Rebuilds is a good one.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a lot of good ones. I love them. Love all that stuff.
Yeah, I just was fascinated. Like when Orange County Choppers was on TV, I was fascinated by that process. I remember, this is before I got into firearms, but I remember, you'd have the designer guy and then the fabricators be in the back going, "Hey, this doesn't work because of whatever reason," and then the designer would get upset and they'd kind of, I'm sure a lot of it was made for TV, but it shows you where a design and the engineer needs to see eye to eye. And so
Yeah.
when that doesn't happen, it's pretty tough. And for us in the firearms, that happens sometimes too. And so it's nice because our engineer is kind of the designer too. So we'll be able to kind of design something while understanding the machining aspect of it. So typically it's seamless, but yeah, I'm always fascinated by that for sure.
Yeah. Everyone in the chat, I know everyone agrees with this statement. You can never have enough carbon fiber.
Yeah.
I've never seen a car like my buddy out here who owns a GTR shop called the Shop Houston. He sold it, but he had a pure carbon fiber GTR. Every single
Wow.
panel inside and out was sheet metal and carbon fiber. Even his wheels were one-off custom carbon fiber wheels. It was,
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I do think that for us, and I don't know, I've thought about this, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, are people buying carbon fiber? Like, for instance, this torque grip that I was showing you, the carbon fiber probably outsells the standard 5 to 1, maybe 7 to 1, something like that. But because we're known for carbon fiber, are people coming here and buying it? Or are there is there one person that to them they're 50-50 and they'll just buy the carbon fiber? Like I don't know what pushes what, but I do
Mm.
know that it's very popular for sure.
Well, what I really love is you can never have enough carbon fiber. Like, look at that. Look at that. Look at how it just hits the ah and that grip. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, you did a really good job, man. I think it came out really nice.
So many people when they shoot that just go ape. No, I have a lot of good, I have a Radical Firearms AR-15 that's fantastic. PSA makes really good stuff. But when you want to step out from the rest, when I take that out of the case, people from 4 or 5 lanes down are like, "What the heck is that?" And I've had the same conversation 20 times where someone will see it, they'll come all the way down. "Oh man, I saw this red," and they see the carbon fiber, and that's how I can tell the car people right away because they comment at me, "Oh, look at that carbon fiber, that's so nice."
Yeah.
That's pretty bougie, but I love it. I freaking love it, and it's a workhorse. Like I put well over 1,000 rounds through it. Man, it's great. It's
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
awesome. And for your, viewers, obviously, if you're not into carbon fiber, we do have parts without carbon fiber, so don't let that deter you. But
Yeah,
yeah, if you enjoy it and you like real carbon fiber, it's pretty nice for sure.
yeah. So we were talking a little bit about SHOT Show earlier, and then
Mhm.
where do you see the market? Because let me tell you this. Now I'm 2 years into it, and YouTubers we like, to do YouTube, it's pretty expensive. So
Of course.
we rely on these companies to give you like discounts or T&E models so you can test and send back. But there was an AR manufacturer there that said, "Hey, I'll give this to you half price if you make a video and just send it back, whatever." And I said, "No." I turned them down because it was such a plain Jane AR pistol.
Mm, mm.
What am I going to make the video on? I mean, the real nice guy. The company was mid-size, but the pistol itself, it was just a 11.5-inch AR pistol, and it was just kind of boring. It was, 10 years ago would have been amazing, but by today's standards, it was so boring. I said, "No, man,
Mm.
I don't think I don't reach, I didn't reach out to him." I was like, I
Gotcha.
politely said no.
Gotcha.
And where
Gotcha.
do you
Yeah.
see the AR market in the future? Because right now, I mean, it's not flooded, but I mean, companies like yours are really starting to stand out from the ones that are just sticking to the same plain Jane designs, you know?
Yeah, I think like any other company out there, innovation is kind of what sells. Minus, I'm an Apple guy. I use Apple products, but I hate myself sometimes because I don't feel like Apple's innovative, you know. And so, and sometimes there's companies out there that aren't innovative, and people just get stuck, you know, with them. But most of the free market out there, outside of, you know, cliche companies like Apple, or something, you know, that people are just kind of used to. I think innovation is what pushes people to one thing or another. And at the end of the day, brand recognition is important too. But why are you recognized? Because, you know, it's on social media, or, you know, are you recognized because people understand that you have really good products and maybe you have good value for the hard-earned money that people are spending. And I think that's where you'll see success come from, is that people are going to be defined by how innovative they are. And I think one of the reasons why we went with that latest rail, the camber rail, is because we saw the trend, and it started going from these big, bulky, heavy rifles to this really lightweight thing, and then they took it to the next level. And then, and I won't name any manufacturers, but there then some of these manufacturers out there started making it like really just like I don't know, design wise, kind of, you know, kind of out there. It was just too extreme in terms of, in my opinion, too extreme in terms of whether it's color or whether it's kind of certain lightning cuts or certain types of design cues that made it look a little cheap, in my opinion. And so what we wanted to do was kind of come up with a product that is still has our lines, but make it more utilitarian. And so we're coming out with a line called the Contractor Series that is going to have stainless steel as part of the materials. And so right
Nice.
now we have, yeah, we have a mag catch that's out of stainless steel, but we're going to push more products that way. But the camber, excuse me, the camber rail, we're really proud of, because it looks good, but it's really utilitarian by form. And you've obviously seen how that installs, but you basically, once you install that with the provided tool, it's rock solid. It's not going to move. You can't, it's not going to flex. I would put that rail against any rail in the market today, and I'll take my chances. Like if there was you or anybody else that wanted to beat it up and wanted me to send you out one just to do like a beat up video, I would welcome that. I'm
Oh,
so proud of that rail, man. Yeah.
those
So I
videos,
think,
so those videos are really hard to do because I grew up pretty, not poor, but yeah, I was pretty poor. And so
I
I
was poor
always
too,
was
man.
raised to take care of everything you get, you know, like I had the same
Yeah.
shoes. I had one pair of shoes for the whole year. And then these weren't Nikes. These were like Pro Wings you got at Payless Shoes. Like I
Yeah.
take care of all,
Yeah.
like in my closet now, I got like 20 pairs of shoes and some of them are like 10 years old, but they all look new.
Yeah.
And when someone sends me something to beat up, it kills me. I mean, I do it, but God,
Yeah,
it's rough.
and there's different ways to do it too. Like our safety selector that you have there, it uses a ridge key patented design where the core will come out, the lever slides in and it twists, and so you can't, you know, it doesn't want to go back out this way. You can't. There's material there. So anytime that you're flicking that switch, there's no screw, there's no weak point, there's nothing.
Right.
And so we had put that on the machine and pulled weight on it. And our weight only went to like, I can't remember what it was, like 300 pounds or 400 pounds of just sheer weight. And it just maxed out. Um, and so those are the types of things that I'm really proud of, is just how much abuse can you throw at it on the utility side, right? And so I think it's a little bit of education that needs to be done, is because our things are so aesthetically pleasing that I don't want it to mix with some of these other aggressive aesthetic companies out there, but maybe don't value the function part as much as we do. Like I really value highly the function. It needs to work when you want it to work, you know, and so that's very important to us.
Well, if you want me to run over one of your rails with a car, I'll do it.
Do it, man. Let's do it.
Oh my god. You
Yeah.
know what's funny? I know, so you know, and being in Texas, everyone out here has trucks, and I thought, man, we
Yeah.
should have something called the lift.
The,
Everything,
the lift.
everything is
Yeah.
lifted
There
for the
you
truck
go.
guys.
Okay.
You know, the
Okay.
lift.
Yeah.
That's a
I,
kind of a
I haven't I haven't named anything for a truck yet, but that makes sense. I mean, I have a Tacoma. It's a baby truck, but I mean, we have a little camper on it. But yeah, I love trucks, man. And so maybe that's next. I like
oh
it.
man, I have a Honda Ridgeline, and people give me so much shit out here for having a
Oh
girl's truck. Oh,
yeah,
that's not a real
yeah,
truck. Whatever.
yeah. That's
Hey,
funny.
Tacomas are great. That's more of a truck than a Ridgeline, I think. At least they make
Yeah.
aftermarket parts for yours.
So I wanted the. We're talking about cars, and so when I was growing up, I grew up. I mean, if you immigrate to America, you're not rich. At that time, the government would allow each person to bring in. I don't really understand the backstory about this, but they would only allow you to bring in $700 per person. So we were a family of three, so we were allowed to bring in $2,100 dollars. And so people say, well, with inflation, it's 10 grand today's dollar, or whatever the case might be. Um, but it's still very little money to go to a country and start. So we all grew up poor, man. And so when I was younger, there were cars that I wanted to buy. So as I got older and had the means to do it, I wanted a Wrangler since I was young, and so I bought
Yeah.
a Rubicon, and I kind of lifted it and put all the big lights on it and stuff, and I drove that for like 3 years or so. Then I got the Tacoma now, but yeah, I love it, man. I think Jeep Rubicon is kind of, for me, Americana, and so I've always wanted it, and taking the doors off and the top off, and that was a lot of fun, and enjoyed that for years. Yeah, and there's a lot of guys, a lot of my friends that, and I'm probably guilty of being. I mean, advertising works, man. I have friends that have YouTube channels, and just friends that in general will buy something and they'll tell me about it, and that word of mouth works because, um, you know, I start buying stuff based on what they have and if they like something, and I think that's kind of where it started with a lot of the cars that I've had.
Yeah, and, it's funny. YouTube is a weird space, especially when you're on like the gun. People buy for like buyer's confirmation. A lot of people will go
Yeah,
out and buy like a Sig P320, and then they'll go on
yeah.
YouTube and watch every video after they've already bought it, just to see what everyone else says. And this happens a lot. Like
That's
they'll
funny.
buy a gun and then go on YouTube and research it.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little different way. I'm probably more traditional. Like I have an interest in something, and then I'll watch videos before I buy it. And so, but a lot of the things that I own, whether it's a Diamondback cover or a certain type of tent or whatever, I'll text them and, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? If you're going to spend a little bit of money, it's nice getting a little bit of affirmation, or watching a review that you might be doing. Oh, Michael liked that. All right, cool. I like it. Click. And so I think that's. I mean, now if you say you don't really know or you haven't done research on something, it's probably on the end user because there's so much information out there for you.
Yeah. So hey, Paul, I wanted to show you something that I ran into at SHOT Show, and actually I got two of these knives, and it's a carbon fiber knife. Check this out, by
Awesome.
Okaso Knives, and it's made for like if you're wearing a business suit. It's not
That's
made to
pretty
go.
sharp, man.
It's not made to go like digging through rocks or anything like that. It's made for if you're
No, I
wearing a
like that.
suit. It's a very sophisticated knife. And when I saw this was probably the most coolest thing I saw at all of SHOT Show. Wasn't even a gun. It was these knives. So I picked up two as fast as I could. I have like a tungsten one, and then that carbon fiber. It's light. It's real sexy. Those are
That's
really cool.
awesome, man.
I'm doing
Yeah,
I
those
want
are
to do
cool.
some knife stuff on the channel. So I have these, but when I saw the carbon fiber, I literally stepped on the brakes and like, whoa, 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 whoa. What is this? Let me go check
Yeah.
this out. That's how hardcore I am as far as the carbon fiber stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of knives, but I'm a fan. I mean, I think what goes into it. I watch a lot of those YouTube videos of how they're manufactured and how they're made. I think there's something to be said for sure. I think they look really great. my record is I've lost more knives than I own right now. So I just tend to have them, and then it's like, oh, where'd I put that? And so I don't know.
Your wife
It's
is
one of
pulling it
those.
out of the
Yeah.
washing machine.
So I like staying in a certain price point. I don't like going really high on knives because I'm fearful that I'll misplace it, you know? So, and so, yeah, but I do like them for sure.
Yeah, I have a ZT knife that I
Mhm.
really like quite a bit, and I got that from the guys at True Shot Gun Club. They started selling a
Okay.
lot of knives locally, and he talked me into getting it. Again, carbon fiber,
Yeah.
and I don't know where it's at.
Yeah. I hate that feeling, man.
I don't know where it's at. These I keep very close to the because I'm doing a video on them now, and I'm keeping very, very close at hand where I don't want to lose them because they're not cheap. They were not cheap.
Yeah. No, no, I know. And I don't know how we're doing on time, but do you mind if I show you a rifle that I got behind me?
Absolutely.
All right, man. So this was a display rifle that we had a while back, and it's kind of
Wow.
in theme with yours, but it was a snow camo kind of design, and it was on display at Shot. And I think this is just on a 16-inch um, barrel. But one of the things that I really liked about this rifle is, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with our switch rail, but it has a QD system.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, and so this, when we designed this, we're talking about innovation. There was nothing on the market like this, you know, and being able to take it off and it's rock solid. We made it both for the 308 and this is a 556. But with the 308, we originally, the barrel nut had anti-rotation shims on there, so you would have to time it and then you would have to lock it in place, because what I was afraid of is if you really went at it, would you loosen the barrel nut or something of that nature?
Right.
Or not loosen the barrel nut, I'm sorry. Would it just twist on you, rotate on you? And so what we found was after TD that we like destroyed a couple of rails doing it, but we started twisting it and it actually loosened the barrel nut, meaning it's going to loosen the barrel nut off of there before it twists on you. So now this barrel nut that we put on there, it's completely, I don't know if you can see that, but it's completely round. There's no cuts on it, meaning there's no anti-rotation. So you just tighten this any which way that you want. And once it's tight, it doesn't matter. There's no top or bottom on there. You slide that on, click that up, and you're rock solid, good to go.
That is
But
pretty cool.
yeah, so this was really popular, the snow camo. It has our hand stop on it, and the control shield that you were talking about, that you have on yours, is compatible with a few different muzzle brakes that we have here, and this is being one of them. This was by far one of the most popular rifles, and we call it patina, but it turned a little bit of yellow with people touching it. I don't know if you know, but our first iteration of our lower receivers, they were embossed. So there wasn't carbon fiber, and the logo was kind of embossed. So it's raised, and that takes a little bit of machining to get that. But
Right.
we don't make it like that anymore. But that was
Man, that is very
something that
cool.
we did. Yeah, appreciate that. And then so something small, we have a little bit of carbon fiber on this. My lighting's not that great, sorry. And then this hand stop is reversible. So if you, in this case, you don't want the hand to slide forward, we have a little brace on this, but also this control shield that you have.
Yeah, I love how it
This,
just pops on and off.
yeah, slides right off.
That was the original, that little foregrip in the front. That was the one I bought at ESAD for another build.
Oh, okay, this one here. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
originally.
so basically that was the third iteration. This it's called the shift hand stop. Earlier I showed you the vertical grip that my friend had designed, this guy, and
Mhm.
then the smaller one is the family, the shift angled grip, and this one is ATF approved
Oh, that's the one I got.
for pistol
That's the
builds.
one I
Okay,
bought.
so this might be the one that you have. So the
Yeah.
hand stop is solid. It's there's no cuts through it. It's a little bit smaller, so it's basically a hand stop. You know, keep your hand from going forward. But
Right.
that snow camel one, we had a company, a Cerakoter called Blown Deadline, do it for us. We're good friends with Mike over there, and so he had done a lot of our display rifles for us, and it was a very popular one for our reach. Maybe not for you, but for us on our YouTube, it got quite a bit of views on it at the time. And once again, that whole genre of Cerakoting kind of went so crazy, so now it's just almost better
You're
to
not
just have
kidding.
it light, yeah.
There's some companies, I'm not mentioning any names, but there's some that have like bubble gum and this and that, and there's
Yeah.
like 85,000 different combinations. I'm like, all right, that's quite a bit.
And that's what I was alluding to on the manufacturing side. They pushed the envelope so much that it started turning a little gimmicky for me. And so we wanted to come back to more of the industrial, side of things, and make sure that you understand that, oh, that camber reel is all about business, and it's all about function, and you're not going to be able to damage it. I mean, it's rock solid type thing. And so that was important to us to kind of get away from that a little bit. Yeah.
Although now that I've seen that little snow scheme,
You
I
did a
kind of
good
want
job, right?
now I kind of
Yeah,
want
man.
to too. I was like, God dang it. You guys should
Yeah,
have
he
a
did a good
limited
job.
run.
Yeah, of snow camo. Yeah, it looks good. Actually, one color that it's odd how colors come back, but we did a limited run of what color was it? ODG,
Mhm.
and people bought receiver sets like, oh man, like no other. I mean, we sold out of those really quick. But sometimes, we'll do limited runs, but receiver sets are one of those things that I don't have any on my site right now. And so, yeah, I mean, they kind of come and go really quick. So if people see them, it's a good opportunity to pick them up when they're on there.
Yeah, I always love bronze.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. It's because I always get the same color wheels every car I get. I get
Oh, yeah.
either bronze, like TE37s, like, I love bronze. It
Yeah,
just
yeah,
looks
yeah.
good. Carbon fiber
It
and
looks good.
bronze. I love
It looks
both of
good,
this.
man. Yeah, for
Everyone in the
sure.
chat, again, there's a link to Fortis Manufacturing down in the description of this video. There's also a link to his YouTube channel and to his Instagram. Please like, subscribe. I'm sure he'd greatly appreciate it. I would greatly appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber of mine, subscribe to my channel. All right. So we covered just about everything. So you have the what line coming out? It's stainless steel. How many parts are you going to make in stainless steel?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with how many parts. Yeah, to answer that question, probably half a dozen initially of various parts. The line is just called the Contractor Series line. Homage,
When
to
can we
Home
see
Depot, I
that? Is that going to
suppose.
come out like later this year? Or?
Yeah, really quick. It's going to be, meaning we have. Are you familiar? You have it on your rifle there. Let me grab one. This
Oh
people like
yeah,
unboxing videos. This is the K1 that you have, the end plate system. It's made out of aluminum. It's literally half an ounce. The weight on it. It's there's no weight. I mean, it's so light, but it's made out of aluminum, right? And so once it's on, you'll have no issues. It comes in the K1 or the K2. The K1 is just basically a tapered barrel nut, and it goes into this, the end plate. You
right.
turn it about 15 foot-pounds, maybe 20. We typically say like a 12 o'clock to a 4 o'clock rotation, so not about a half revolution, and then it's locked on tight. But because it's aluminum, you have to have a nice castle nut tool that fits in. A lot of times these castle nut tools, they're not all made the same, and they're loose, and people aren't on at 90. And I mean, it's going to shear if you don't. It's aluminum. So this part we're going to make out of stainless steel, and so we haven't had issues installing, but obviously we want to make it so nobody has issues. Stainless steel inherently costs a little bit more just because when it's on a machine and you are milling things out,
Right.
on aluminum, it mills out pretty quickly, but with stainless steel, you're going a lot slower. And so there's this inherent cost with not only the material cost, but just machining is a little bit slower. So it'll probably be just a little bit more than the aluminum version. But these end plates, we sell thousands of these a month. And so they are really, really good sellers. And they've done well for people. And it's just a nice, easy part that you can do at home or what have you. So it's been real popular.
What's funny is this rifle looks heavy, and my wife's like, "Oh, it looks heavy," and then she picks it up. She goes, "This is super light. Can I have it?" And I said, "No, you cannot have it. You shoot your own rifle." I see. That's the mistake I made. Getting the parts in red, and that's her thing, man. She
That's her
loves
thing,
red.
right? Yeah.
So lesson learned. Next build has to be like green or bronze because she doesn't like bronze. So I'm gonna do that. But
awesome,
man.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it. So no gun parts besides barrels, because 1911s are really hot right now.
Yeah. So no, there's not gun parts that we make outside of barrels. I know. And we have a lot of friends in the industry that are manufacturers that make fantastic, gun parts, slides, and what have you. And so it would be nice to tap into there and do a little bit more. You mentioned the SIG, but even SIG parts would be nice. I'm a fan of SIG, Glock 1911. So much that you can do, and platforms are so good, and it's even more appealing because so much regulations on the AR-15 side, right? And so yeah, that there's definitely ideas floating around of other areas to get into for sure.
Nice. Well, this is the last question, then I'll let you go. But
yeah,
I ask everybody this question, especially lately, is if you're a betting man, do you think the pistol brace rule is going to stand, or you think it's going to get knocked out?
Gosh, I have my own problems in Washington right now. I have a little bit of anxiety, actually. We had this law passed through the House, and so I don't know. To be honest, I would like to think that it's going to be overturned. If I'm a betting man, I think it's going to get overturned if you had to put one or the other. But it's really tough because there have been things that doesn't make sense, maybe constitutionally or even clearly not logical sense, but that have gotten pushed. And so it's really tough to tell, of how it is. And so I have friends with pistol braces on their rifles, and those are the questions that they ask for sure. And so it's hard to give them a definitive answer one way or another. Yeah,
It's
tough, man.
So if the gun laws where you're at go south, what's your plan B? I mean, if they go really far south.
Yeah, let's say it goes really far south. Outside, I mean, you have a couple options. Do you fold up and move to Idaho, right? Or
Come to
that's
Texas.
our only, or Texas, right? So that's an option. Or do you start getting into other type of components? Because for us, if you know Fortis Manufacturing, we sell all sorts of different types of components, right? And so it's not just our rifles that we sell or lower receivers that we sell. So in the interim, it's horrible, and I don't want to make it sound like that it's not keeping me up at night, because it certainly is. But it's just to answer your question. I don't think that I would have to shut my doors tomorrow and move, figure out moving to Texas, on the third day or anything like that. But it's a very frustrating thing to deal with. I joke. And you said you're from Cali, right? You're a transplant to Texas, right? And so we have a lot of transplants, as you can imagine, right? And every year, more and more of my friends are from California. I say, man, you guys really screwed up this amazing, great state, And so the joke, but kind of in all seriousness, is now people in Texas, because there's so many transplants, is if you fled for whatever reason, like, don't turn it into the reason why you fled, right? And so I think there's something to be learned there, and that lesson to be learned. And so for us, like, and you might have saw it if you were in California, but with COVID and restaurants and shutdown rules and those types of things, when we saw our lawmakers pass these things that didn't make a lot of sense, but now fast forward and now everything's fine, and hindsight's probably, they made a lot of mistakes. These are the same lawmakers that we have pushing for gun laws and pushing for different things. In King County, I heard that they're pushing that you can't use natural gas. I don't know when that's going to start, but you can't use natural gas and they want to convert all to electrical, right? And so I'm
Well, there's a
thinking,
whole conspiracy behind that.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because if everyone's on electric cars, so it's funny in California, they have a lot of these electric cars. Then they send out notices, please don't charge your car because we're having blackouts.
Exactly.
So if everyone's on electric, your house is on electric, your AC is on electric, there's no more gas, anything, and your cars are electric. Basically, they can just, oh, you don't
Control you.
want to vote my way? No electricity
100%.
for you.
And we were talking about that too. And I don't even think that's far-fetched conspiracy. I just think that that's writing on the wall, right? You have to be smarter than that to know. I mean, because even real world issues, we have power grids that go out here because of weather in the Pacific Northwest, trees go down or what have you. And if you're all on electric, fortunately for us, being on natural gas, you still have hot water. You still can use the stove to cook up a meal or what have you. And so I think it's narrow short-sightedness, but these are the same lawmakers, to my point, that make these decisions for COVID, shutting down businesses and small businesses going under, are the same ones coming up with new ideas, and it's frustrating to say the least.
Yeah. So when in Texas, was it 2 years ago, we had that real bad freeze down here in Houston, and we were no power for 6 days at all. No power at all.
Yeah, man.
And we could still cook our food. We still had hot water.
Yeah, that's right.
It was great.
If me and you had a friend, Mike, and 5 times he picked the restaurant that we're going to go to, and it sucked 5 times, like, we'd be foolish to let him pick the 6th time.
I don't know. Is he paying?
Yeah,
if he's paying,
maybe
no.
If we're using lawmakers as an example, no, we pay, and then he continues to choose bad places, and so it's frustrating, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Tough. It's tough. Yeah.
But hey, I don't want to keep you any longer. And everyone in the chat, like I said, all his information is down below in the description. Please support the companies that support us. That's what I always want to say. And if you're looking for some really cool parts for your AR, this is the direction you want to go in, because like I said, I take this thing out and people just go bananas. They're like, man, that is so cool. And like, I'm not anal retentive, but man, I tell you what, when I put something together, or when I look at parts, when I look at guns, if there's a lot of flaws, or if there's like a nick or something, it just drives me up the wall. And there's not a scratch on that thing. And I've dogged it out, and it still looks amazing. It can take a pretty good beating.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you saying that. That's really kind words coming from you. I know you deal with that all day. So yeah, that's high praise, and it means a lot to hear that we're doing it right. And you can edit this part out, Michael, but if you are okay with even like you mentioning a coupon code or something for your listeners that sat through this, and by all means, let's throw them something. I'd love to support your channel any way I can, and
a coupon code.
the listeners. Yeah,
now, look, sure, if you guys get a coupon code, jump on it. Don't just buy one thing. This is your time. Put together a whole Fortis rifle, because the only thing that's not Fortis on this, I think, is the BCG and the barrel, but everything else, and it's phenomenal.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
All right, so I will put out the coupon code. I'll put that in the link too, or I'll put it in the pinned comments. So the coupon code will be in the pinned comments below. What's the next event you're gonna go to? Are you gonna be at the NRA show?
No, we haven't gone to the NRA for a little bit of time, so it's a good question. I'm not sure what the next event is. I know we just got done with a buy group show in Texas, of all places. You guys had a storm when we were there, or when my team was there just recently. So the next event, there is a pretty good small event, close knit, with really good innovators coming in the fall, called TriggerCon. We might be at that, but that might be the next event for us.
Where's that located? That sounds very familiar.
Wichita area.
Wichita.
Yeah, Wichita. Yeah, it's run by Rainier Arms Firearms Academy out there in Wichita, and so yeah,
I'm gonna have to look into that. It sounds interesting.
Check it out.
No, I didn't even get to talk about your IG. Your IG page is phenomenal. Who takes care of all those photos?
Oh, we have a great band of photographers and a marketing team that helps
It
out with
shows.
some of the content. Yeah, and so unfortunately, it's kind of a sore subject because I don't really understand YouTube or the Facebook and IG's algorithm. At one point, we were just kind of growing like no other, and then I know people use words like shadow ban or what have you, but I do feel like we're shelved, you know, and so it's a little unfortunate, you know. That happens. But yeah, we're real proud of the content on there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens.
Yeah,
You just got to keep on going, man.
yeah, for sure. That's what we're doing.
I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of shadow banning, but when it comes to the YouTube side, people are like, I'm shadow banned. I'm like, nah. Like for me, every time I have a video that sucks, it's like, I just got to make better videos. Because if you
Yeah, no,
make a great video, you'll be able to break out of that algorithm no matter what.
no, I agree with you, man. I agree.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Again, Paul, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone in the chat, thank you for sitting and watching, and click all the links below. And you guys have a good night.